All right. What is up, y'all? What is going on? Welcome to the Aces Unlimited YouTube channel. All right. We are back at it with another session here to go ahead and talk about what went well last week, what didn't go well last week, what could we have taken advantage of, what didn't we, and what we can end up seeing for this coming week. All right. So I'm realizing today. While we did do the Wyckoff Sundays last week, it was not posted. And so I'm going to be posting both of these on the same day. But I do have obviously the video here recorded. So we're going to go ahead and still go through what we spoke about last week, and then go ahead and go in from there, right? So obviously last week we had the massive rally on dollar. Really our narrative was just to see that continue to go. So let's go ahead and actually let's bring this forward. I think we're already here. There we go. All right, we should be here now. Awesome. So again, our ideas with dollar were just to see this rally continue, right? Again, we really had, the reaccumulation really show its face the week before. And all we really said was just continue to look for pullbacks to buy some more, right? Our goal was to reach all the way up into that 102 level, right? We spoke about different opportunities inside of that last week, which was, seeing Euro USD go, right? Seeing GU go, seeing Euro GBP go, right? And stuff like that. So let's go ahead and tap into what we saw here real quick. Let me press play. We hit our target of, reaching up towards this high here on dollar, right? After having, again, we redistribute. Right. We recently did have a price to really just order flow, most likely lower time frame wise up towards 102. And then from there, see if we redistribute. Right. We recently did have, big news come out, which is obviously that, apparently there is a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. Right. Which is complete garbage. There is no peace deal. So we'll see how that all goes as this continues. But that's why price has still been going in the same direction that we've been predicting since the war started, all the way down here. Pretty much all Wyckoff Sundays we've just been talking about buys, except for really as we started to distribute there. We spoke about the probable reaccumulation, which again everything has been pretty on point, like bigger picture wise when we really look at it from the last 21 episodes, which again really proud to see. Obviously it's not perfect every single week, right? Sometimes it takes longer for the things to develop. It'll happen a week later or 2 weeks later, whatever. But the bigger picture idea typically sticks. So this week, really what we said was, again, see dollar, start to order flow its way to the upside. I believe right now dollar is just shy of 102. So, likely, to be honest, we might even gap through that, just opening up, just considering how close we are. Or, we end up giving us one more opportunity before we go up. That would be blessed. If we can hold this, right, and then end up, coming back, I mean, that would be a great, last ditch opportunity there to see, dollar head to the upside towards 102. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. But as you guys can see here with dollar, I mean, ideally what we did want was we did want to see, price get back into areas of imbalance. As we could see, when price did open up, I mean, none of that really happened, right? Like we said, most likely it was just going to be lower time frame order flow. We likely weren't going to get, a bigger time frame pullback considering how close we were. And we can see that that is what happened, right? So, we have price filling imbalance here, creating that first point of order flow, right? We have price trading back into there, right? It's creating the second point. So we're just continuing to flow to the upside just like this, right? During one of our sessions on Friday, we were looking for this here as well, or actually, sorry, that was by myself. We weren't live on Friday. But yeah, like there was a zone over here, right? Beautiful 30-minute institutional candle that I was looking to see price react off of from here, right? We definitely got that reaction super beautifully, which I love to see there from DXY, right? So really right now for me, I mean, we kind of did have just, wait, sorry. We're not going to be talking about the coming week. But that's what happened last week, right? Really, like we said, the most likely scenario was for lower time frame order flow to hold. I was kind of hoping we could do this and then from there start to walk up just to make it a little bit easier on us. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. And we just kind of gapped up and continued to go higher using this lower time frame order flow as we expected. So again, we still have not reached our target there at 102. So we'll talk about what we can see happening for the coming week later on, right? Now, after dollar, again, here. It really starts to pick up when it comes to the amount of ships, and then suddenly out of nowhere, boom, right? We're right back at where we were before. with this whole thing. So it makes sense why dollar did end up getting that. What like that? Like how many things have we seen just from a fake news just being like, oh yeah, the war's over, and then the market pumps or dumps, but then it most likely institutional candles.
About the war there.
Most likely we will be seeing your
Okay, so like we said,
towards that level.
we saw, so we saw both of these in potential buy zones, but we didn't buy that obviously. Our idea. So for Euro USD here, again, we had this previous low. We spoke about how price sold off really aggressively into that low, but we also said that the most likely outcome when we really look at it, even though we're in a zone where a lot of traders are probably thinking, oh, buys from here, right? You got to understand the context, and the context is that yes, there is accumulation here, but that accumulation is actually a redistribution from that level, right? So we get the accumulation play out, great, perfect. There was nice buys from that level, good opportunities. From here, we had the distribution happen, so the most likely scenario is for price to go ahead and reach below here, and as well, again, like we were saying, this is our bigger time frame target, is the low of this bigger time frame distribution that we've been following since the beginning of Wyckoff Sundays, right? So all of this really told us that most likely we could maybe get a tiny pullback and then continue to go to the downside. Again, like we saw with dollar, with Euro USD, we did not even really get that pullback. Price just continued in the direction we were looking for. So again, this was kind of our idea here. Like, okay, maybe hopefully we can drive up, trade into there. Unfortunately, that never happened, like we said. And we just ended up going straight down towards that level, right? Small buys have happened here. We'll talk about what we can see happen later on, but I'm not convinced of that, obviously. So yeah, back to the video here. So that was Euro USD. GBP USD was really the same idea. Actually, I think this one might have played out. We were looking about this to come above that level there. We saw that there was relatively equal highs here, a point of liquidity there. So I believe we were looking for something like that to go ahead and see the market, head to the downside again. Let's see what happened there on GU. And yes, that is pretty much what ended up happening here, as we can see, right? So we can see that these are the equal highs that were left behind at the time of that session. This was the high here that we were looking to see taken at least. Of course, we did kind of want to see this redistribution get hit, but instead we just created a new one, right? We could see a beautiful institutional candle that was printed right here, right? We took this point of liquidity here, took that point of liquidity here with the same candle, and then from there, retest, right? And then again, lower time frame order flow, guys, right? Following that lower time frame order flow, GU was honestly a pretty clean play from what we were looking for there. I'm pretty sure that's what we were saying, was like we just wanted to see that high get taken. Let's double check here. Right, seeing if we could get institutional candles above there, or maybe even getting back into previous redistributions like up here, right? But I wouldn't really be expecting like big pullbacks personally. I'd be more expecting momentum to just continue. So just keep using pullbacks as excuses to short, I would say, and try and find out where we can see these institutional candles starting to form on some of those higher time frames, 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour for us, right? And that'll really help us see when we're going to see that next impulse to the upside on dollar. Yeah, so pretty much spot on. I mean, again, like just looking for those institutional candles in the right areas, right? I mean, come on, this 1 hour here is absolutely textbook. We even have the trap candle playing right before it, and then we have that one right there, playing out. And again, that's really coming above a point of liquidity that we already, pointed out. And I believe this is present on multiple time frames. We could see this 4 hour is one big up candle, right? 2 hour, yeah, not bad, right? Definitely a institutional candle there, right? 1 hour, again, we saw that's probably one of the cleanest candles. 30-minute, let's see. Yeah, not really an institutional candle there at the top, to be honest, right? 15-minute, I mean, we have a nice up candle here at the end that before we come down, but nothing too crazy. We definitely have a supporting institutional candle right here on the 15, right? So that being that mitigation candle coming back into that level. Pretty beautiful stuff there, right? So good manipulation there at the top. And again, just creating order flow from that point here, 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 right? And then pretty much going towards our higher time frame target, tapping that higher time frame target, and from there, and now we're starting to see the reaction. So we'll see how this goes, right? And we'll talk about what we can see for this next week potentially in a bit. But great setup there for GU. Like I said, EU technically did not really give that same sweep that GU did, but it also, I believe EU had technically already taken the same relative high that GU hadn't taken yet, right? Let me double check here. Oh, no, I guess it hadn't yet, sorry. So GU just ended up taking the high, but EU just didn't. So GU was really the better setup of the two after we saw that high, being taken the way that it was, right? So let's go ahead and see what else we had. So yeah, again, that was really what we were looking for there with EU, right? GU, we were looking for it to swipe that high. And then what else do we have here? Dollar index, right? We wanted to see that imbalance filled. Didn't get that, just ended up order flowing up. And then we have gold here, right? Gold ended up having some good short-term buys from this level. I believe some people did catch buys from there, but we did end up continuing to go to the downside, which fair enough, really what we wanted to see was, again, good lower time frame price action in here. But the distribution in here was very solid, right? That was, the high there was FOMC, I believe, right? I mean, beautiful institutional candle at the top, and, price is already trending downwards for gold. So truthfully, I mean, out of everything that we've really spoken about the last few months, to be honest, gold, we've been wanting to see, we've been kind of had the bias of kind of getting those longs to happen. And we kind of had that for a while, right? Ever since over here. Granted, I mean, we did call out the top here, right? This is something that we did speak about on one of the Wyckoff Sundays episodes. But from that point forward, we had wanted to see reaccumulations print. And obviously we never got it. That just ended up being the top, and we just ended up trading down. So again, it's kind of just, looking at, the context, again, even of the situation, right? I feel like rather than us looking at this as a potential zone to see the accumulation from, I mean, seeing it become the redistribution sort of been our red flag to just short. And we didn't really do that, right? I mean, it's hard for me to really want to see gold and silver go down for such a long period of time. But, even if, gold and silver are, going down now, I mean, how far down can they really go? These are metals. These are things that, again, have their own value in the world, right? Obviously, there is, cycles in every market, and obviously, gold and silver are no different. But, I mean, historically, right, how far down do we really have these bear markets go, right? 43% or so, right? On some of these other ones, right? These aren't cryptos, right? Right now we're down about 30, right? So I guess we do have some more room to move down from the high, right? I believe the high's right here, right? Yeah, so around 30. So I guess we do have some more room to move down. I guess it's just about waiting and seeing, all right, when do we start to get some real good, bullish institutional candles on the higher time frame? Because I guess if we do look at it, from a weekly time frame perspective, huge wick on that low, right? Daily time frame, even, to be honest, is a big wick. We did have a nice daily down candle there. And yeah, again, this is another point of structure here. So anyways, we'll talk about this in a little bit longer, but a little bit later, sorry, once we get into the future, right? But yeah, last week we were kind of speaking about the potential of longs from that level, just to see if that sweep ends up holding up. And again, did not end up holding up. We did see price get a little bit lower. There were some short-term longs in here and in here that some people in the community did catch. But the real move was just continuing the shorts from FOMC, right? So it is what it is, right? Gold, I would say, has been a little bit of a tougher one to read compared to currencies and everything like that with it, right? And we said the same thing for silver as well, right? Again, the main thing we said for silver that we really liked to buy from was because of the liquidity that was built up here. Price ended up just taking that liquidity and then tanking through afterwards, right? So if we go ahead and take a look at silver, all right. Here's the liquidity that we drew up on Wyckoff Sundays, right? Literally massive institutional candle taking that, right? So again, huge push to the upside here, right? 2 hour wise, right? 1 hour wise, again, just really fast push up. And then from there, that ends up being the high of the week, right? So it did make sense. We did recognize the liquidity, right? Good for a short-term buy, but again, the long-term move was bearishness to continue that FOMC price action where we saw that distribution play out from the week before. So definitely, right in the short term, wrong in the long term, right? Same thing with US 30, really. We did catch some relatively nice shorts from this level. The thing is, we liked US 30 more than the other ones. So we were looking at US 30, NAS, and S&P for shorts last week. S&P and NAS were beautiful, right? These never even came back. US 30 ended up coming back into the high and even sweeping it, right? So if we look at NAS, for example, right, this was really the zone that actually, let's start with US 30 and we'll talk about NAS after that. So US 30 here, as we can see, this was kind of the zone that we were talking about later on in the week. I mean, firstly, price obviously came into the original zone we spoke about there, which was this area here. We were looking for shorts from that level. The fact that we had a distribution here at the top, it was S&P, I mean, right? If this was a bigger push to the downside than we thought. And when I do look at the daily on things like NASDAQ, I mean, that's kind of in play too, right? Up candle there, right? Potential trap candle just printed, right? If this high holds, like, and this ends up coming down, this could actually be a pretty decent down move for the indices. So yeah,
Could
same
still
thing here
happen.
with S&P. I mean, going back into that daily candle and reacting pretty beautifully.
So yeah, those two ones with S&P and Nasdaq were pretty much on point, right? As we could see here, if it'll load, awesome. So yeah, as we can see here, daily time frame wise with S&P, those daily up candles were pretty much on point, right? All we really saw was price just take the high of the previous trap candle during the week on Monday, and then from there that ended up being the high of the week, and we just ended up running down, which is beautiful, right? Nasdaq as well. Oops. Nasdaq as well, same idea. We spoke about that daily up candle. We said as long as that high holds, we could be seeing this head to the downside. That high held very beautifully, right? So Nasdaq, S&P definitely played out really, really well for what we were expecting. US 30 was a different story, right? So when we spoke about US 30, let's see.
Like I said again, if this next daily candle were to come bearish, that would end up being a pretty beautiful trap candle play, coming right back down towards the lows again, right? Candle, and then from here maybe we look for the buy scenarios again. But yeah, just the way that this price action all played out, I mean, sweep after sweep, right? Like sweeps here, right? Trap candles there, right? Most likely, we can get something like that to happen is basically the hope. And mostly I'd be paying attention to US 30 for this idea, not so much Nasdaq. And then pretty much in the same area. What I'd rather be looking for EU to continue to
Okay, I guess I don't have that
play
part there with US 30.
Well,
I remember what we spoke
at the
about was
daily, we
that
also
zone
have the
here,
nice
right? So
institutional candle here. Distribution this week, institutional candle here. Distribution this week.
So yeah, sorry. So here we go. So this is where we were speaking about it. So we were talking about this high here. We wanted to see price essentially take these points of liquidity and then come to the downside. I do remember speaking about that specifically. And yeah, like I said, this time, US 30 did that, right? We did have the market initially get into that level with the good sweep, as we could see here, push right up to that zone, gets right back into that wick, and then ends up, selling off from there pretty nicely. Good amount of pips were taken from that level, right? So we could see here about what is that, 600? Yeah, pips or so, right? And then from there we ended up continuing to the upside. I did notice this liquidity that created during the week, so I was thinking about taking the trade here. I took it at first. I closed it literally at the bottom, to be honest, thankfully, luckily. And then, after that, we ended up having this big sweep here. So we're going to see what happens. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. But I believe that's pretty much what we spoke about. Oh, and then obviously there was BTC, which we were also on point with. So where is BTC here? Here we go.
Here would probably be best, right? Probably right up and above that level, to create a sweep and then eventually start to continue this redistribution down. Why do I say that? Well, last week we did end up having these relatively equal highs here that had played out. Right, we can see all these highs here pretty much in the same area, right? And then we ended up seeing the market, start out here, right? Same way that we really saw.
So yeah, again, this was really what we were looking for, right? Seeing the sweep of this push to the upside, sell off. We were looking for the mitigation to happen. That happened pretty much instantly after Wyckoff Sundays, right? So if you guys were on the live, right? Again, we did forget to post this, but if you guys were on the live, you guys did see this, right? And this is exactly what happened, right? So this is where Wyckoff Sunday happened, right here, right? Price sold off a bit. We swept one more time, right? Essentially exactly what we were looking for to then go ahead and head to the downside on BTC. So we have hit the goal, right? So our target on BTC was to make a new low. So we did hit that from the Wyckoff Sundays episode. So BTC was called out beautifully. Once again, as you guys can see, the squiggly lines prevail once again. And the squiggles told the future for all of us, right? So really, really cool to see with BTC, right? Again, just continuing the order flow, right? Keeping it simple is really the best thing that you can do, right? And came right back into where we had shorted the week before and ended up just absolutely dumping back towards 59. And yeah, we'll talk about what we can see coming for the coming week for this pair right here. All right, guys. So that's everything from last week. All right, all in all, not too shabby, right? Higher time frame analysis was still pretty on point. Really the only thing that I think we got wrong was gold and technically US 30. Everything else was pretty on point. Best trade of the week I would say was probably BTC, maybe GU if you did catch that, but for me it was BTC. Now, Dollar, let's go ahead and talk about what we can see for the coming week now, right? So dollar, again, we are so close to our target here at 102. Really two main scenarios that I would look to see play out in situations like this one, right? Either one, we reaccumulate, which price is kind of left off as some potential for that, right? We definitely did see kind of like some selling type price action at the top here. So again, like kind of like an institutional candle at the top. We have this liquidity swept, mitigation, and we tank, right? So all of that, pretty much brought us down. And then we ended up being, coming back into points of order flow. Again, new institutional candle there happening as well. So that's really what happened last week since the big buy up. Now, this could potentially be, the beginning of the reaccumulation, right? Now, what I would obviously, you guys know me, I like to see higher time frame pullbacks. And I think in last week we were saying most likely we weren't going to see one. This week, it's possible, right? Getting very close to a goal like this, to an area like this, sometimes we can experience some significant sell-offs from the high, which I think is what we're kind of starting to see here. And then from there, bring in the sellers and then just continue to really just rocket through the range, I think is really the likely idea, right? So either one, I mean, price just continues, like I said, the real, like one thing that could happen could be literally just gap through these highs and we just go, like meaning if we already had enough sellers in here, or if there's really like, if we're trying to get some more sellers into the market, right, we just need to come up here, create another sell-off, and then from there, reaccumulate and head to the upside. Personally, I would love that. So if we could even get back into this zone here again, right, fill in some gaps and leave that target there, then the market might just bless us one more opportunity before we end up hitting our actual target, which is the 102 level, right? That's what I would hope for, right? Again, not too sure, right? So that's really one, right? So one is deeper pullback, and then we go and we rocket up towards 102, or two, we trade back into Friday's price action, and then we head towards 102, because this is really not bad either. Good sell-off into this level. There was a good institutional candle in that level as well. We're back into the previous high here as well, right? So, this is a decent area to maybe look to continue those longs. So that's really my main idea, would be like either here or we end up sweeping through, these lows, right? Creating a new reaccumulation. And then from there, we can start to rocket our way up to 102. So both of those are worth attempts, right? Really the goal is to just firstly, obviously confirm the right price action as we get in there. So like if we trade into that with a good IC, right, then go ahead and try and follow up on that. But if not, then, we'll go ahead and we don't get good price action inside of this level and it just kind of continues to sell off, then perfect. We're going to go ahead and look for another low and then look for the reaccumulation to go higher. But again, guys, that's really just what we're continuing to do right now, right? This is really honestly like what we're in now is relatively the simpler side of trading a trend. We're in expansion right now, right? So we're not accumulating, right? This is like the worst time to be trading. This is the time we hate to trade. Not necessarily the worst time to be trading, right? But more so just the most difficult time to be trading is obviously in an accumulation phase, right? Once we've gone through that accumulation phase, if you're good at understanding how reaccumulations work, I mean, that's pretty much how we found these ideas here, right? Reaccumulation there, we looked at that as the bottom, right? Reaccumulation here, we looked at that as the bottom, right? So it becomes a lot simpler to kind of just play with trend, like really have higher risk to reward plays even because, we have higher time frame targets that we know price wants to expand towards. We understand that though that's what price is going towards right now. The question is, how is it going to get there, right? And so us reading these reaccumulations is the way that we can really enter along that wave and continue in with, the buying towards 102. So that's what I'd recommend for this week as well, guys. I'm personally not shifting just because we got close and sold off and we started to show those manipulations at the top. I think these manipulations here at the top they look good and everything, but I think they will end up being distributions that will turn into reaccumulations. And again, I'm going to leave this imbalance here because I'd really love to see that get rehit. We also have imbalances down here. So either or could potentially happen, right? Just keep an eye out to see how price opens up in the next couple of hours. And then we'll go from there. All right. So there we are with dollar. Now, obviously, your USD is going to follow a similar path, right? And again, two really main options, right? So there are some good candles here on your USD that just printed. Again, kind of similar to how dollar has some good candles in that area. Like we said, dollar has got this push to the downside, right? that did come into a good zone there. At least on the 1 hour is more of a wick, but the 30-minute, we get a really good manipulation, as we can see here, right? Relatively equal lows right in this area, right? Good institutional candle before we bought up. I mean, it was a pretty good zone to see reactions from. Now with EU, again, could be similar, right? Again, we did have this previous zone here on EU. We sold off from there. It looks decent, right? But that being said, our previous redistribution is over here. This is the high that created the low. I would love to see that or even this, right? So, I mean, I'm still going to leave the same zone open because it could definitely still happen, right? EU never took this high, while GU, again, did take this high here, right? Those are the same relative highs on each, right? GU went for it, EU didn't. So maybe GU ends up holding and EU ends up maybe running, right? I mean, I would love to see something like that, but for that to happen, we would need a deeper pullback on dollar. Like if dollar were to reach that imbalance that we spoke about last week, maybe EU can do the same, right? But, play both sides here, guys. Like obviously there's the potential for, good like higher time frame pullbacks, and there's the potential for lower time frame order flow to just continue to hold and continue to head towards the targets. EU is a pair that's already hit the target. Pretty much, actually, a lot of the currencies have already hit their targets. EU hit its target here, right? GU hit its target down here, right? So there is, most of the pairs have really ripped through, the previous targets that we spoke about last week. So again, but dollar hasn't. So I do still think dollar will continue to go towards that level. I highly doubt a redistribution will happen in this area. And I think the redistribution, if it is going to come, if the war is going to end soon, then it'll probably be above 102. If not, then this accumulation could even continue back up into previous highs, like we've spoken about before, bigger picture wise, right? But for now, guys, right, our main target is 102. So yeah, maybe back into these levels, maybe back towards the trap candle here, like we did last week. And then we can end up looking for more longs. And then with EU, same thing. Either one is going to be order flow from that IC. If we break that IC, I would love to get just one more high and then end up continuing to go down. So just look for the signs of redistribution as always. I think this is a good accumulation that we started with. We're starting to slowly make our way higher, slowly make our way higher. Maybe we end up getting one more, which would be kind of like my most ideal scenario to look for the sells. But just continuing, guys, just continuing the same thing, creating pullbacks as excuses to short, right? And then hopefully GU can do the same, right? Maybe reach back into this yellow zone here, right? Create one more high, get back into that level, and then boom, maybe sell off from there. So only time will tell, right? Fingers crossed, but GU didn't exactly make a new low in the best way, I will mention, right? So that could be a sign that order flow is about to break, and then we end up reaching back up into the previous zones there. So I'm kind of like, just looking at these, I'm kind of like, and looking at the way that we made the low, I kind of am leaning towards the bigger pullback on dollar idea. But again, the low that happened there was pretty decent, so I did want to mention that. But I am kind of leaning towards the idea for maybe a potential bigger pullback, and maybe we reaccumulate below previous lows, and then we end up seeing the push to the upside happen. Only time will tell. We just got to watch what price action is going to tell us during the week, really. But that's the main idea. All right. And pretty much same idea. Right, NU kind of ranging a little more. Let's definitely take out the top of this, and then again, we're gonna just look for institutional candles here. But out of all of them, I like NU the least. Right, not really too much going on here. I mean, really just trending down. Right, what zone are we gonna play off of? Right, do we play off of here? Right, do we play off of there? There's like less areas to really play off of here. So NU, I'm kind of ignoring a little bit. Right, more of taking a wait and see approach, like we've said before with other pairs. Same with AU. So mostly just focusing on EU and GU once again. I think these are probably the better ones to use for this particular idea. All right. Now gold and silver. Okay. So gold and silver, we're selling off, right? We've been selling off. We're in an interesting zone, right? I won't lie here, right? But maybe it is possible we end up getting back into some imbalanced areas down in here. Personally for me, I'm a little bit nervous to look for the longs. Granted, we do have a monthly candle here that's closing in 2 days. So we do have to keep in mind, yeah, so the monthly candle is about to close. These can be institutional candles. They really can be. It's a very interesting point to see this actually react from. So I am interested to see what gold will end up doing in this area here. Right, but as of right now, guys, I mean, we've been trying to buy. It hasn't exactly been going great. With gold, right? The sells have definitely been the bigger time frame moves, even though they've been more difficult to find, like FOMC here,
right? This institutional candle here as well. I believe, unfortunately, like we called out buys in this area, right? We had called out buys in that area. I mean, it's just not really been so great. So I do think it is, definitely possible that gold will recover and that silver will recover. The question is just when, right? So maybe when we get into the new month, right, we can see things a little bit clearer, right? But one thing's for sure, we're in extreme areas here, right? But I'm not super confident to see this happen here long term, guys. So I'm leaving gold and silver probably alone. We'll see what happens during the week if anything really entices me in this low. If like, maybe we end up like getting back into areas like this and reacting, then maybe we can end up seeing the continued longs from there. For something like silver or with gold, right? Maybe like, again, an area like that, right? But for me, guys, like, it's just tough for me to really want to continue to look for the longs, right? But the price action that we did coming down was good. The price action that we did starting to come up was good. So there is a zone present on both of those pairs. But the question is, are we really done sweeping or not, right? Like I said, the monthly closes in 2 days, right? The previous monthly was a wick. This current monthly can be a down candle. So what if July ends up being the next up candle, right? Or sorry, July, right? What if July ends up being that next up candle on the monthly? So either July is the next up candle or we get one more down candle, right? Again, we do have monthly imbalance down in this area, which we're going to mark up as well, right? But from a structure perspective, like, we still haven't broken this, man. So it's hard to say. It's really all just speculation in terms of really whether we're going to see this structural low here get taken and we get back into the imbalance, or if we just hold this after sweeping these lows 3 times, right? The volume, I guess, technically is there for the buy idea, right? We have this low, high volume, right? We have this low, high volume but lower, and then we have this low on lower volume as well, right? So we do have volume divergence there on the daily, right? So I guess there is more evidence this time compared to other times, but at the same time, it's definitely a scary point, right? So if you guys can't tell, I'm a little bit indecisive. I'm a little bit indecisive with gold this time around, but those are the facts, right? The facts are we're still in a structural low. The facts are there is some volume divergence. So maybe it's worth to take one last attempt after having this third sweep of the weekly lows, the daily lows, right? And then go ahead and see if order flow can continue with zones like this. Personally, out of the two, I think I'd rather use silver just because, I like the low here a little bit better there on multiple time frames, right? 1 hour is nice. Good liquidity sweep here. We did an internal sweep versus here we didn't really do an internal sweep. We just did order flow. So I'd rather play the internal sweep personally. It's unmitigated. We have an imbalance inside of it. So we'll see what happens down here. But I'm going to take a wait and see approach, like I said. So be careful, but there is some potential here. There is some potential here once again. Now, let's go with indices. So indices to me are looking scarier and scarier by the minute, right? Obviously, our bias for last week played out. We spoke about the highs here on NAS likely to hold here, and the one that was also likely to hold, which is this high right here. Both of those ended up holding, and we did see NAS create quite a sizable sell-off to the downside, right? S&P as well, same thing, right? We had this daily trap candle here. We spoke about this daily up candle here. And once again, all we did was run the high of this trap and then continue to sell off, right? Not to mention, there's a lot of eyes on the stock market right now, right? SpaceX was just released, we're at all-time highs, stuff like that. Personally, for me, I think that we can dump, truthfully. I'm starting to really see that potential happen more and more. Price is kind of confirming my theory, from the last like 2-3 weeks that we've been talking about it since this up candle happened here. And yeah, we have targets, guys, right? Again, like the way that NAS did this low here, for example, right? Huge wick to the downside, right? We left that wick behind. We didn't even sweep that wick. So that's liquidity to me, right? And the fact that we even retested the wick and went, also liquidity. So if we can end up seeing, again, now we recently just printed a daily trap candle here, daily up candle here, daily up candle there, running the high of the trap candle here. I mean, it looks more primed to short now than any other time since we've had this rally. So I really do like to see that. Seeing that push to the downside looks very clean. So hopefully we can see that continue, guys. I mean, that's pretty much what the idea will be. So to me, it looks more like an order flow type play. Perhaps what would be best would be, again, just in general, like inside of these highs, it would be nice to see a sweep of here, right? And then end up getting, price to hold, let's say an area like this one here, right? And then from there continuing to come down. This is our daily trap candle, right? Daily trap candle does look like a redistribution, right? We have an accumulation that happened here. Price takes the high of that accumulation and turns into a distribution. And not only does it have that redistribution on the lower time frame, but on the higher time frame, again, it is a trap candle. So that does kind of confirm it even further that, again, there is some pretty good chance of that holding. So I would love to see something like this sweep and come down. That would be really my most ideal higher time frame scenario. But it does, depend on what happens with things like S&P too, for example, right? But, S&P as well, man, like relatively equal highs right here, right? I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that where, we have something like S&P sweep the high of this, NAS holds this high, right? US 30 holds this high, and then we short off, right? That's personally what I would really like to see is like one more sweep to the upside, right? And then short off from there. I think that this US 30 push to the upside here looks a lot like manipulation. So that's really what I'm saying for this week, guys. I think indices should be more of a focus than gold, because I think we are potentially getting the signs of that higher time frame reversal, which again, dollar booming now. If dollar just continues to fly, indices should sell off. I just realized I have a runner left from a NAS buy that's right near B right now. I forgot to close. I don't think so. You should be. I mean, hopefully we don't gap through. That's really the only thing. I mean, we kind of already are order flowing down. For our candle here isn't great. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get this sweep and it did come down. So maybe you should be a little worried. But let's hope we just get it at BE. There. Right, but I kind of do think the bigger time frame here is showing us those signs for what we like to see when we see reversals happen, right? We have a high we're playing off of. We have the order flow that's starting to happen. So yeah, I do kind of like this to continue down, right? S&P I think can reach towards 7,050 towards that liquidity there. S&P will definitely reach towards 28,185. I mean, sorry, NAS will definitely reach towards 28,185. And like I said, S&P will reach towards 7,056. And US 30, yeah, at least down to this zone at 50,800. Only time will tell. All right, guys, so that's indices. Let's take a look at crypto, guys. So crypto is really in the scenario that we spoke about weeks ago. Redistribution happened up here, right? And then after that, price came down to this level, and we said the most likely scenario is we are going to make a new low because we had, again, a very high point of volume here, which is great, right? We had another high point of volume here, which was lower, right? But one thing I will say is, like, look at this spike here, right? Huge spike in volume, even bigger than over here. So I'm not necessarily convinced that this could end up being the end of it, but I think we're getting there, right? And so because of that, I am taking attempts on things like BTC. I do have a long on BTC from later in the week, which is right here, that's still open, right? I did end up taking some profits out as well. And so I have this at break even from this level. Why did I do that? I mean, we can kind of see the order flow that started to play out here. I ended up playing it there on the lower time frame. We can see there was, some good price action for it. Right, so it's pretty much, my entry was right in here, right? So pretty much we had the sweep there. That sweep created institutional candles on multiple time frames, right? 5-minute down candle, right? I believe there's a 15-minute down candle. It's not bad. 30-minute down candle, I believe, also isn't bad there, right? And then after that, I think it's Wicks. But yeah, that's why I decided to take that trade there. If this does hold and react, then this looks good. If not, maybe this is another redistribution from this level. So I've already taken partials. I'm going to wait and see what happens. And if not, then we're going to look for a deeper push into the 50s, right? Maybe 56, maybe towards 54. But honestly, guys, personally, I don't think it's going to be too far, right? Let's go ahead and really look at some of the facts here with crypto. I'm going to give you guys a bit of my higher time frame analysis with this, but if any of you guys are trying to be long-term investors inside of crypto, we're definitely, I won't say definitely, but I think we're starting to get into that phase where we can start to see that happen, right? Firstly, let's talk about the institutional side of things, right? So when it comes to the what do you call it, ETFs, right? So the ETFs, as we all know, were released in 2024, I believe in January, right? If I'm not mistaken there, right? I'm pretty sure it is that low. I'm gonna double check. I'm gonna fact check myself here to make sure. But that range where the ETFs were released was about 44 to 40,000, right? So let's see here. When were Bitcoin ETFs released? Okay. Oh, the first one was there. Oh, spot Bitcoin ones was January 2024. Exactly. So this is the first time where we really started to have spot ETFs get created, right? So ETFs are obviously how large amounts of institutional money floods into the market, right? This is how a lot of the money comes into the stock market and stuff like that as well, is through ETFs. And so having those ETFs here also get created around that 40,000 to 45,000 point, I mean, the floor isn't going to be too far down from there, right? In my opinion, right? I think the floor is probably 30, right? I don't think we go too much farther. And again, the high is 120, right? And as we know, it's like wherever the high is, typically BTC will double that high from peak to peak, right? So for example, last time it was at about 67,000. Our next peak was at about 125,000, right? So we almost doubled it, right? About 83% or so, right? From the exact top to the exact top, right? Of the two cycles. So even buying at 60, right? Obviously, and getting back up to here, you're already at 100% gain, right? If we double that again and we go to 240, which is again, or like let's say even 200, right? It's a 250% gain from where we are right now, right? So again, I'm personally a fan of the crypto buys. I think that this cycle is going to be shorter than other cycles. That's always been my theory, because now institutional money is in the market. I feel like we're kind of at the beginning of not the beginning of it necessarily, but I think that we're getting into the phase where now BTC is institutionally adopted the same way that indices are and all this other stuff. And since indices are institutionally adopted, that's exactly why we don't really get big, we do get bear markets inside of indices, but they're not as massive as crypto. Why is that? Because there's less money that just holds, right? Institutional money is money that holds, right? And so because of that, that's why, and not only holds, but they're willing to buy more and more and more of it, right? So, for gains like this, I mean, I think that just from a mathematical perspective, this is a pretty big opportunity. And I think that when it comes to BTC, it's going to be similar to the way that things happened with indices, right? Indices were in a point where, obviously it takes a long time to reach 100% gain. With crypto, you could get 100% gain in like a couple months, a year, right? So those numbers, as institutional money starts going in, the downs are going to be less, but the ups are going to be less as well. And now this is the first cycle that we really have institutional money behind it, right? Obviously, again, like the institutional money really started around here in 24, right? The top was obviously in 25, but that wasn't even the beginning of the run. This is the first time we have a bear market inside of a cycle where ETFs exist, right? So that's why I'm saying, I think with BTC, the two main areas where we can really expect buying from is either one, if we want to make it nice and easy, this is going to be an easy area, right? I mean, it is the last point of structure from here, right? Before we started to distribute up here at the top, right? This is really our last reaccumulation. This could be a zone that we buy in, right? The volume does start to reflect that, right? We have started to see big volume inside of these areas like here, right? Granted, there was a lot bigger volume, in the last cycle, right, for this, and it's just kind of been decreasing. But still, it's a pretty big spike here, right? We haven't had that spike since we started to, shoot through the highs here, right? Since we pretty much were at the last rally, right, from there. So again, I do think that we are starting to get there. I think that if you guys are, again, long-term investors, anywhere between 60 and 40K is a steal, right? And we're starting to get into that area now. So guys, I'm bullish on crypto, right? Long-term, obviously. If you guys are willing to hold something for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, I think this is the asset to use, because again, we are just getting started with institutional adoption. And I think that
after this next bull cycle, the next cycles are not going to be as big. So this is really, I think, your big opportunity. Is I think everyone's big opportunity. If you guys have never really been involved in a crypto cycle, right? If you guys haven't been involved in the waves that happen, well, I think we're getting to the point where it's your chance. So even if you buy now at 59, I'm pretty confident that you won't be holding too long before you start to see profits, right? Granted, with the most I think that we're really going to go down for you is maybe 30% more, right? Max, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not when you're going for a 250% potential gain. Right? It's a great risk to reward to me, right? Like something like that. That's a 1 to 6 on a long-term investment. So that's kind of my expectations with crypto. I don't think we dump too far. I think this cycle is going to be shorter. This bear cycle is going to be shorter because institutional money is involved. I think it's not going to be as big. And then I think we're finally going to get a next big rally with BTC coming very, very soon to theaters near you. So that's pretty much my idea there with crypto. I just wanted to speak on that, right? We'll talk about that more as price develops. Obviously, right now we just recently made a lower low, right? DXY is booming, so we obviously got to see how long DXY is going to boom, but we're getting there, y'all, if you're willing to do long-term investing. For short-term, I'm not saying leverage buy. Definitely don't do that. But yeah, if you're willing to do, find the short-term ones where they make sense. But if you're trying to do long-term ones, I think, again, dollar cost average over the next 6 months, year, and you guys are going to be in a good position. All right, guys. So that's it for Wyckoff Sundays, episode 21. All right, good stuff here, guys. Super excited for it next week. For everything new that we spoke about before this recording to start. And yeah, for any of you guys that are on the YouTube, the new quarter is beginning. We are starting a new boot camp. All right. So for those of you guys that are willing to work one-on-one, that want that one-on-one work, that want to really go ahead and get to the next level in their trading, reach out to us on the Discord. It is in the YouTube link. All right. And join the best community that is out there. All right. Much love, much appreciation. Catch you guys soon. Peace out. Deuces.